Hello, this is Rob Mazak, and I'd like to take a moment to welcome you to the Life by Mazak podcast channel. Here on this channel, anything is possible, any subject will and usually is discussed, and there's no telling how this message will unfold as we work through an idea, through an experience, or through a thought. These subjects come from the vast amount of information and experience through spirit, through life lessons, and from working with a lot of other people. Scripts are never used on this channel, and the message simply unfolds as the subject is discussed. Follow along and see where it leads us, or more specifically, where it leads me. These podcasts are produced in the hopes of helping others to benefit, to grow, and to excel in their own human experience. At Life by Mazak, we work towards helping you achieve wellness for your mind, your body, and your soul using many specialized services. Services that include psychic medium and tarot readings, quantum healing hypnosis, past life regression, intuitive Reiki healing, life coaching, and many other services. If you enjoyed this podcast, please click the like button and share this with others. Our goal is to reach as many people as we can with the knowledge that is shared on this podcast channel. Well, good day to everybody. Here I am at 4 a.m. on a Saturday morning, wondering why I'm awake. Well, it has been happening a lot lately. Strange things have been going on. I think our world, our reality is kind of driving some of it, because it seems like it's happening to many people, at least many people I know. I'm sure there's others out there that find themselves in the same predicament. I find myself recently wanting to go to sleep much earlier than even I usually do, which I'm, fairly early going to sleep kind of fella. But it seems like the earlier the better to go lay down, go to sleep for the night, my sleep time. But I'm finding myself awake at, between 1 and 3 in the morning a lot lately. And we've all heard about that witching hour, that time when you are awoken or you find yourself awake, that it really kind of drives home that there is something that you need to do or something you need to hear. And what I mean by hear is your guides, your God, your whoever it is or whatever it is that you feel guides you from outside of this reality or what we call reality. So I will use spirit guides for the most part, make it easy. My spirit guide is an angel, if you've heard my podcast before. And I find myself waking up and realizing that I need to connect and meditate, because I can tell you, when life gets super busy, which mine has, it's hard to find time to relax enough to actually connect and meditate and ponder and think over things and allow the processing of our consciousness to work things out, so perhaps we can sleep better. But if we're not doing that, I guess that's why we find ourselves awake a lot. And it's not that I don't have the desire, because I do. I love to meditate. Again, if you've heard my podcast, that's one of my favorite things to do. Complete silence and just to let my mind and my consciousness take me where it needs to go, or I ask specific questions or look for certain answers. I guess that's the same thing, isn't it? Anyway, I've gotten to this point in my current career where it has just been very, very laborious amounts of work, and I don't feel like I can relax enough at night or after work to really meditate properly. And it's very, I guess, disturbing or bothersome for me that I have found that to be more of a struggle than it used to be. almost reminds me of the times when I was first learning how to meditate. And so I guess that makes sense when you get woke up at night and it's like, okay, well, you have no distractions right now, do you? So let's go ahead and meditate. And I have found myself being able to meditate just fine. Sometimes go back to sleep, sometimes not. Like this morning is the not part. And I have found that I haven't been paying as much attention to these kinds of things, sharing my experiences with you guys, talking about all the metaphysical and spiritual things that I should be sharing. I know I should be sharing, and that's one of my callings. And even when I was sitting here at my computer replying to some of my clients, which I've been behind on as well, I accidentally, or the computer just decided to start this program that I use to record, and I heard I heard the voice in my head. It's like, hey, it's time. Let's talk about some things. Let's share with people. I'm like, okay, I get it. And it's amazing when you really pay attention and you begin to realize what's being told to you, what's being presented to you, what has been being communicated about what it is you need to do in life or not do in life, or what your purpose needs to become or change to. I talked in the last podcast or two, I forget which one it was, but there's been a lot of interesting signs that have popped through that have made me realize that there's a lot of things that I have been holding on to, not bad habits. I mean, we all have some. I drink too much coffee. I have been holding on to things that are attached to my identity. It's really time to let some of these things go because it seems like I'm spending or have been spending energy on things that are no longer really part of my journey or purpose moving forward in my life as it is right now. For example, I have been a physical therapy assistant for nearly 30 years. It's been a really, really long time, and I have not worked in a physical therapy clinic in over 9 years. Yet I keep renewing that license because it's like it's attached to my identity. I've been doing it so long. It's something I can say I am, something I can say I do, something that gives me, credibility, I guess you'd say. And there's many other things as well. And I realized though that there's a lot of things in life that need to be carved away, let go, dropped off in order to create enough energy within me to do the things that I need to do moving forward, or things that are supposed to change in my life. But when you spend all your energy on things that are no longer supposed to be part of your journey moving forward, then we run out of ourselves and we can't necessarily focus like we should and move forward on the path that we want to, or we should be moving on that path. However, here I am, 4 o'clock in the morning, talking to you guys because this is something that, as I've mentioned before, is a calling that I've been given, is to share information, my experiences, my journey, and to help others. Because what I find is that many of the things that even in my own life and my own struggles and my own experiences, and those that are part of my life, have gone through and are going through, and we're always going through something. It never really changes unless you just don't want to change. But I'm finding that when I help other people, or help them work through things and point out things and be that objectiveness for them, the objective part of looking at their problem, not from within but from without, what I'm finding is that there's so many similarities and so many things I can offer them based on the things I've gone through and helped others go through. And it is very, very rewarding to help others to figure out what is going on, or at least give them a clue about what might be causing them to not feel like there's purpose in their life, or that they are simply doing things to sabotage themselves unknowingly and unaware of why those things are happening. And when you bring sometimes even just little things to people and bring them forward and show them and demonstrate for them, hey, by the way, this is what I feel like is going on because I've seen this in so many other people, so many other clients, so many of, other family members and in my own life. And it can really help people kind of get out of their own way. And I think that's the real purpose of helping others. It is not to do the work for them for sure, because I personally have enough of my own work to do. Because even though I've grown a lot over my life in the last, I don't know, 12, 15 years, we all have things to work on. And I continue to work on things. And just like I talked about, I found myself, holding on to things that I don't necessarily need to hold on to. And it's funny because when you begin to let go of things and you just decide that they just don't need to be part of your energy queue, they don't need to be an expenditure that you spend your energy on, then all of a sudden new things start popping up in your life. Things that you thought you might want to do but never had the time or never could figure out how to do it, or maybe it's something new that you didn't know you were supposed to do. Getting called in the middle of the night at 2 o'clock in the morning for somebody who wanted a psychic reading. I don't necessarily do that. I mean, I do them by phone, sure. But, I'm not necessarily the person who is like the phone psychic and the person you call on from a website and you dial in and you ask your questions. Not necessarily something I've done, looked at it before, but that seemed to be the precursor of just random somebody asking me to come join one of those things. And so I'm going to look at that. But the thing about that is it's not so much that I wanted to do that. Maybe it's something I need to do. Maybe it's something that I just need to become more comfortable with, and that's just where I need to go. But if I had not decided to drop some things in my life and just let them go and allow them to kind of drift off, come out of my sphere or influence of energy that I expend, I would not have had room for those things to show up in my life. And even if they did, I would be like, well, I don't have time for that. I got to get all this stuff together to renew my license. I got to get all these things together to stay a part of this organization because what if this job goes away? Those kind of things are just things that weigh you down. And, it is very difficult to prosper and grow and change in life if you're holding on to old things, right? We all know that. And I know that is just as good as anybody and probably better than some. Yet we still are human. We still find ourselves doing these things unknowingly in many ways. And if we take the time to listen to those little voices, those little signs, those little things that come about, then we can then identify that and actually do something with it. But what I find is a lot of people don't necessarily listen to those things and they think it's just like their mind making up stuff and it's not real and it's not relevant and it's not accurate. But if you really took the time to listen to that inner voice, don't worry about the paradigm of, you're hearing voices. Well, guess what? Thoughts are voices in your head. We all have voices in our head, right? And so that's kind of an old way of looking at things, in my opinion. I'm not a professional psychologist or psychiatrist, but that's not my point. My point is that we all have thoughts. We all have that inner voice. We all have that thing within us that we know is bringing messages to us and bringing us things we should do and or not do. Right? Because sometimes doing things is what gives us purpose. All those problems in our life that are long-term, say legal battles with, a marriage or a divorce or a child or something, it gives us this purpose and this distraction. And then when we win or that comes to a conclusion, then we no longer have that purpose and that distraction. Then we find ourselves staring at ourselves and going, now what? It's like struggling and practicing and learning the craft of football and making it all the way to the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl. And then what? Well, now you've reached the pinnacle. And now what is the purpose of playing football? Maybe because you like it, sure. But I think you understand the point is like we all have these goals and these mountains and these things that we overcome, and then they end or they come to a head. Either we win or we lose or whatever. It comes to some kind of conclusion. And then we find ourselves standing there looking at ourselves and going, now what? And when we have to look at ourselves, oh my gosh, that is the struggle, isn't it? When we all look at each other, look at ourselves with a lot different view than most people look at us. Most people would consider us as really great human beings, and we do good things and we do great things. But within, we don't always feel that way. It is very difficult to look at ourselves, yes, and we all know that. And if we really do that, we find that there's a lot of things within us and about us that we really feel disdain for, or we feel very uncomfortable with. But, that is what makes us who we are. All those experiences we've had, good or bad, right or wrong, doesn't matter. It is what has brought us to this point. Those are the things that have happened. That doesn't necessarily mean that we have to become all those things. But we have to really figure out at some point in our life, or points in our life, because I think there's many, at least in mine, where we have to make a turning point. We have to make a change. And I find too that if I don't make those changes and over time I'm not listening and I'm not paying attention to making those changes and doing something about those things that I'm hearing or feeling or knowing, then I will get the big spiritual hammer, as I call it. I'll be slapped on my back with some crazy disease or some major problem in my life that will cause me to make that change and go in a different direction. I don't know about you, but I've had too many big spiritual hammers whammed at me, and I really don't want to go down that path again. I'll take the small little hammer taps, the little messages, the things that I need to pay attention to, and roll with those. Because when you really drill down problems in people's lives and you look at where they're at in their life, many of the things that they feel like are coming from outside themselves, they got this dark energy, we got this curses, we got these things. It really is our own self fighting with ourself because our inner self, our subconscious, those deep caverns of our consciousness knows what we should be doing and what we shouldn't be doing. And it is connected with the higher power, whatever you call that. And so there is a channel that comes through us from outside of ourselves that is giving us streaming messages all the time, but we don't necessarily want to hear them, want to do anything about it. But if we don't, we will be given plenty of reasons to change. I'll give you an example. When I used to work at the burn center in San Antonio, I remember this couple was in the burn unit. Well, they were not both in the burn unit, but the husband, the male part of that relationship, was in the burn center and massive burns to his hands. I don't remember what happened. And it was a struggle. And his wife was with him there every day. She came, she helped with rehab, she helped with whatever she could and was there for him. And I remember her telling me something that just stuck with me to this day. I mean, that was years and years ago. She said, I never imagined when I prayed and asked for more time with my husband that this is the way it would come out. On the other side of the coin, not only do we need to hear the messages, we have to be careful what we ask for because we might just get it. It may not come in the form that we would like it to come in. So when you're reaching out and seeking manifestation, if you will, we have to be very specific. Another example I give you is when I was doing hypnosis on this gal. One of the questions she had is, why did I have to go through this terrible car accident? That left her with a lot of physical problems. And the answer that came back through was, well, you asked for the money you needed to have a down payment for a house. You gave a very specific amount, but that's as far as the specificity went. This is how we got it for you. She had a lawsuit from that accident that gave her exactly the amount of money she needed to purchase that house or the down payment for it or whatever it was. And that also stuck with me. So if we take all these things we hear from others and through our own selves and through signs and all these things, and we really put them together and we really act on them and pay attention to those, I think life will be a whole lot better. We have a lot of trouble in our lives. I'm speaking about myself too, that sometimes we get in our own way. We don't realize what we're doing until sometimes we get the wamboozle, right? So I am encouraging everyone to really pay more attention to the things that come into our lives that are messages, or I'm not saying you need to look for things and force them to happen. I'm just saying take a moment or moments throughout your day and just look around, listen, pay attention. And when you get something that seems odd, write it down, research it later. And the internet is teeming with information that you can go look it up and analyze it and go, hey, that might make sense. Maybe this is what this is talking about. That is something that I think a lot of people just really don't do. And of course, I never did it for a long time, a large part of my life. And even if I did hear it, it didn't make sense to me. I didn't pay attention to it. But I got the wamboozle, huge wamboozle, I don't know, I guess like 15 years ago now. I don't like those things. I don't like those big events that cause me to crash into my uncomfortable the uncomfort zone. Wow, that was hard to say. Even the word uncomfortable seems to be uncomfortable, right? Here we are, right? And we are in our life and we're going through our day and we're working and we're working and we're working and we're trying to make ends meet, and times are harder and harder, and tariffs are coming through, and everything's more expensive, and it's such a struggle sometimes to even feel like that we're surviving or thriving, and it's very difficult to pay attention to ourselves like we should. I don't think we need to wait until we get hit upside the head and we're forced to lay in bed because of some disease or some other thing, because we needed to do that. We needed to have time to reflect and think, take the time to do it. Let's all practice that. Let's all think about that. Let's all work through those things and allow ourselves to actually look at ourselves. It's nothing wrong with finding things about ourselves that we don't like. And that gives us a direction, a purpose, or an idea of how we would like to become someone different or something different. But at the same time, we got to remember that we are unique. We are unlike anybody that will ever walk this planet, this reality. We are like 400 trillion to 1 chances that we're actually even born. And the idea of anybody matching us exactly is almost astronomically impossible. I mean, there's been like 70 billion plus people ever walked the planet that we know about in our recorded history. Not saying that there weren't more before that, but 70 billion, that's a lot, and not one of them is you. It will never be you. And so we all bring a uniqueness to this reality. We bring a part of this reality that is required to hold this reality together. And if we don't do our part, if we don't hang our hat on being unique and being us and finding whatever it is that gives us purpose, that makes us feel like we're contributing to humanity and not just some worker that is in this system like a milling machine and going through your day and earning money and spending money and then eventually dying out. I don't think we're all here just to eat, work, consume, sleep, die, all that. I think that is part of life. Yes, we're here to experience things. We are definitely here to experience what it's like to be human and to have all those emotions and struggles and all those things that will bring greatness to who you are. Because if, let's just face it, if you look at yourself long ago, most of us have changed a lot, whether we like to believe that or not. Some for the good, some for the bad, but we've all changed. What is the most permanent thing in life, in reality? It is change, right? Change is the only thing that's constant. And so we have to embrace that. If we don't look at ourselves and look at those things that we would like to change and then go do something about it or try to do something about it, work towards that, then we're not part of the solution, we're part of the problem. We need to become part of the solution and be part of that change because change is coming. Change is coming much faster than it has in our earlier days, at least my earlier days. You look at technology, it is just ramping up so fast that we can't keep up. Artificial intelligence and quantum computers and all these things are forcing change for us, forcing us to be something different. And maybe that's part of the plan, perhaps, that this time of our existence on this planet, this place, is meant to be this way, and that we are here by choice to know what this is like, to be part of the change. Whether we're willing to do it or whether we're unwilling to do it, we are here and we are part of that change. So I feel like embracing that change, hanging on to that and going with that and allowing it to happen is much easier on our energy expenditure than fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting the system. Because the system is here, the system is what it is. The machine is rolling. We're not going to change that. It doesn't matter how much we riot, how much we protest, how much we say, how much we fight against the man. It is not going to change. I mean, we all know that. I think even those that think that can change it know deep down somewhere inside that we're never going to get everybody to agree and cause enough change to push back on the system. So how can we use the system? How can we use the way forward to become a much better human being, right? Well, that is the secret. That is the question. I'm not saying I have an answer. I'm saying that I think we need to embrace that. I think we need to figure out how we can be part of the solution, like I said, and not be part of the problem. Now, where we're going with this machine and the system, is it somewhere we would like to go or where we need to go? Don't know. Maybe it's part of a grander plan that we don't know about, because looking outside in, like I talked about working with clients, is the same way that those that guide us outside of us are looking into our life the same way objectively. They can see a much bigger picture, much bigger idea. They can see where things are going, and they can, I say they, those entities, those your guides will have a much better view of the future, where you're at, from a much different view than you have. You cannot possibly see as much as somebody from the outside can. And so allowing those messages to come through, those signs, those things to guide us, to cue us, to give us little innuendos, little ideas to help us move forward, to change maybe some things in life, let some things go, either do more things or do less things. Things like that are very important. And I think we are part of this plan, and we should just embrace that and move forward with it. All right, I think I am done rambling. As you noticed, I don't really have a script, and I'm just kind of going with what the idea is and just rolling with that streaming consciousness. I hope you enjoyed this, and maybe it'll be thought-provoking enough to get you to look at yourself and perhaps what kind of changes you can make, either take away or add to your life. and affect those in your life and the greater part of humanity as we move forward. And when you get a chance, hey, pop over to my website at lifebymazak.com, LIFEBYMAZAK.com. Look around. I got services, products, podcast links, all kinds of things there. And I really do like working with people. I say this a lot. It helps all of us learn. It helps all of us move forward. And it gives me a chance, you a chance to make some changes. Why not? Right? I learn from you. You learn from me. And so I really look forward to working with you. I look forward to hearing from you. Stay strong and live your life.